This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 15, and it reads, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Verse 16, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Verse 16, "A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able." Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, all praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Makakadash, Brakatam. Double honor shall go to apostles, elders, and bishops of great millstone who continue to teach and to rule well. Shalom to the Akims, of great millstone, the like-minded camps, and individuals who continue to teach as one body, who continue to be out on the highways and byways, risking their lives for the greater good. And also shalom to the sincere Akwats, who are continuously learning in silence, as the Holy Scriptures have commanded for you to do so. This is Azariah Gabar, representing the King is Coming channel, back at it with another lesson for edification purposes. All right. So the scripture that I just read in 2nd Esdras, chapter 15 through 17, is none other than a future prophecy of martial law. Point blank, especially in the 17th verse, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." All right. So I want to take this beautiful lesson. First of all, I want to call this lesson for today, "Shall not be able." Okay. Simple title today, "Shall not be able." Because I want to take this opportunity in this lesson today to share a personal experience that I went through regarding this martial law. All right. We got to go back to the year 2020 in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. All right. And at this particular time back then, when I was still working, I was residing out there in East Orange, New Jersey, but I was still working in Manhattan, New York City, as what is called a FLSD, or Fire, Life, and Safety Director and Security Officer. All right. Way in Lower Manhattan by South Ferry, Staten Island Ferry, Battery Park area. Okay. I was working at a hotel overnight when this took place. And this is when Bill de Blasio was mayor of New York City. And he put out a directive interaction where overnight hours, all right, that New York City was considered what you call a zone, okay? Like a essential worker zone only, okay? Only essential workers like firefighters, police officers, paramedics, nurses, medical individuals, and even fire and life safety directors and security officers were considered essential workers. All right. So in order to enter into New York City during this period of time, you had to show proof that you were an essential worker. And if you could not provide that proof, like, a badge or even a letter, with legitimate letter with company letterhead stating that you work for whatever and you are an essential employee, then you were not allowed into New York City. Y'all heard? So once I got hold of this on the news, I told my supervisor at that time, I said, listen, man, before you go, before you go home for the night, please generate a letter stating that I'm an essential employee, being that I was coming from New Jersey and I had to go through the Holland Tunnel. I know they're going to stop me and they're going to, get on me about being an essential employee. All right. So, of course, the dude, it went through one ear, came out the other. He failed to do so when he left for the day. So that night, when it started, I'm like, damn, should I stay home or should I go in and take a chance? So, I put my trust in the Lord, Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Makakodash. And I said, I'm going to go in. And I'm going to put my trust in the Lord like I'm supposed to, right? So I got to my ride because I had 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. And I went through the highways of Jersey and I got to the Holland Tunnel. I was able to cross into the Holland Tunnel. And lo and behold, when I got out of the Holland Tunnel in the New York City side by Varg Street area, guess what? I was pulled over by the NYPD. So I pulled out my New York City, what is called a COF or Certificate of Fitness, FLSD T80, temporary 80 license as far as fire safety. And so I explained to the individual that I was supposed to get this letter, but my supervisor couldn't come through, but this is my identification. I'm a licensed fire life safety director and security officer. So I had 2 licenses that I pulled out of my wallet to show them that I'm legit and I was going into work at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. tour that I have to go to relieve someone. All right. And sure enough, this Shedamite police officer said, well, sir, you're going to have to make 2 rights and go back into the Holland Tunnel to go back home. Real talk. They were about to send me back to Jersey. All right. But as I was about to do so, I came across this other officer and I pulled down my window and I said, sir, please, officer, I understand this is what's going on, Salakia, but I really need to go to my job. I told him where I worked, the name of the hotel, what street it was on. And I showed him my IDs as well. And so he checked them out and he said, okay, you know what? All right, go through these 2 cones. He said, but have your credentials if you're coming back into the city tomorrow night. You will definitely not come in, okay? Straight up. So the Lord allowed for me to go to work. And of course, that morning when my supervisor came in, when I was getting off, I told him, I said, man, listen, you know what? I almost wasn't able to come into work. I said, I need this letter right now, pronto, before I go back home. So he was able to generate that letter. And then the crazy thing was that night, the following night, all right, same routine. Went through the highways of Jersey, through Newark, and then, into Jersey City. Got to Holland Tunnel, went through the tunnel, got to New York City side, and I got, stopped by these Eves, right? NYPD officers. And they didn't even bother. They didn't even bother to ask for my credentials. And I was trying to show it to them, and they were like, no, just go ahead, man. Slacking of the hand, okay? Slack of the hand, all right? A slacker. They didn't really care. So my point that I'm making is that it's going to happen again, all right? What once was shall be again. It's going to happen again very soon. And it's happening now. Because you got Washington, D.C. that's under military control. And they got checkpoints going on down in D.C. And they're doing it to Chicago. They did it with L.A. They were doing it with Portland. And now as recently as Memphis, Tennessee. All right? So it's going to happen again. So you Jakes out there, particularly you 2/3, y'all still want to, go on these cruises and on these dream vacations like it's nothing. Well, guess what? That's going to come to a stop very, very soon. Y'all heard? So I'd like to cue up this video real quick while I have an opportunity to do so. And Slakia, this is about Trump. He's about to do away with the Constitution. All right. So the headline reads, Trump's horrific plan to suspend Constitution leaked. Y'all heard? Now me, as a man of the Lord, and in a much higher spiritual elevation, I knew this was going to happen since his first term in office. I knew this from back then, that if he gets back into office, this is what he was going to do. And lo and behold, this is what's coming down the pike. So fair use, fair use. Before I play this video of the 1976 Copyright Act law, this video is strictly for edification and educational purposes only. I'm not making a dime off of this video. You heard? So without further ado, Salakia, let me cue up this video.
Big Pharma hates when you do this, but they can't do a damn thing about it. This automatically self-adjusting cane makes it impossible.
Shut up.
You feel like you're walking with superhuman
Okay.
stability.
Welcome to the News Hour. Over the last few days, President Trump has repeatedly questioned the right to due process, a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution that protects people against arbitrary government actions.
The president's attacks come as the courts increasingly warn that the president is exceeding the scope of his authority. Our White House correspondent Laura Barone Lopez has this report.
At an event today announcing Washington, D.C. as the host city for the 2027 NFL Draft, President Trump again doubted the need for due process under the Constitution.
It's a very difficult thing with the courts because the courts have all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they said, maybe you have to have trials. We're going to have 5 million trials. Doesn't work. You wouldn't have a country left.
Okay, so this is wild, like genuinely wild. We need to talk about what just leaked out of the White House, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this could change everything. So here's what happened. Conversations from inside Trump's inner circle just got exposed, and what they're discussing, suspending the Constitution. Yeah, you heard that right. The actual U.S. Constitution. The document that's supposed to protect every single one of us from government overreach. They're talking about ways to legally, and I'm using that word very loosely here, ways to legally suspend parts of it, starting with something called habeas corpus. Now, if you're like, what even is habeas corpus? Don't worry, I'll break it down in a second. But first, let me just say this. This isn't some conspiracy theory floating around on Reddit. This is Stephen Miller, one of Trump's top advisors, going on CNN on national television and basically admitting they're looking into this. October 8th, just a few days ago, he sat there and claimed Trump has what he called plenary authority as president, which is just fancy lawyer talk for unlimited.
All right, so I had to cut that video short for time constraints. But you heard what that young brother was saying, that Trump and his cronies are carefully planning this Constitution suspension. So not only this is going to suspend habeas corpus, but this is also going to invoke martial law. A man shall desire to enter to a city, but shall not be able. You heard? So, Kwame Yasharala, All praises, honor, and glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Kakudash, Barakatam.